Howdy, welcome to May's MasterCast. I'm Shannon Deere, the Assistant Dean for Graduate Programs, here with your fantastic host, Ben Wiggins, and your even more remarkable producer, Kyle Ackerman.
What's up, guys?
It's fun to have you on the mic with us. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we like it. Today we are going to do a sort of 1-year anniversary interview. I don't know if I say anniversary well. Anniversary.
Yes.
It's tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Especially with this cold going on.
Are you throwing an H into anniversary?
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. We'll just change the word.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Some people say groceries. I'm interested by that.
Grocery? Like an SH?
Yeah, groceries.
Groceries?
A lot of people say
I can't
groceries.
say DRAWER.
I'm not smart enough. Oh, drawing? What?
Drawer.
Oh.
I can spell it.
Okay.
Don't cut this. Sarah, don't let him cut this.
Wait, say it again. Say it again.
Drawer?
Yeah, I can't say that word.
I mean, some people might say drawer.
I just can't even. It just butchers it.
So what do you say if you have to open one of those? What do you say?
Do you say you're opening one of those?
I guess not.
Do you narrate the opening?
Sometimes.
Okay, well, that's cool. I also, Ryan, several months into us dating, said, I don't know what you're saying about this word. And the word I said was roined.
Who? Roined.
Do you know what that word is?
Ruined?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Not smart enough. Didn't go to May's business school.
No. This one is not on you. I was saying it to some friends the other day, and I asked them if they knew what word I was saying. And they were like, no idea. And then I used it in a sentence, and they were like, I'm still not 100% sure. And Ryan said the word is... So then he had me say, how would you say ancient... blank ruins? And I was like, oh, ancient ruins. I mean, he didn't say ruins. He said ancient blank. And I was like, ancient ruins. And he was like, okay, now how would you say that the dress is... And I was like, oh, ruined. But my mom worked very, very hard to rid herself of her Texas accent, which I had as a child too, but worked hard to rid myself of. And there's some words that carry over. Ruined, which was roined for most of my life. And then oil.
Oil.
Okay.
Not oil.
Yeah.
Oil.
No, oil.
In the oil field.
Work in the oil field. Yeah. Oil. That's where it shows up. Oil field.
All right. So that was a very long way of saying.
You're welcome.
Today, we are on the mic to do sort of a 1-year anniversary check-in show. We are 1 month late, so 1 year and 1 month. But that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Welcome to the MasterCast.
Close enough. We are a very entrepreneurial enterprise, and things don't have to be precise. So 1 year, 1 month-ish.
Right.
Yeah.
And since we launched our first show, that's crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
That's crazy. We have a lot of content out there.
We do.
I'm proud of us. I like us.
Yeah, I like us too.
I like you too.
Kyle's all right.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Kyle's the best. Ben's all right.
Your boy Kyle.
Yeah, boy.
It says here on the show notes, your boy Kyle.
Literally on the show notes.
Right. Yeah, it's the only changes I really made to that document. So
that was your major contribution.
Yes.
Good work.
Yes, it was.
Good work.
Thank you.
We also have Sarah, Kyle's girlfriend, in the studio today.
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah. We need her every day. She's
We
awesome.
do. I'm glad I have her every day.
Aw, that was sweet.
Well done. Well done.
Winning some
Thank you.
points.
Yeah.
All right. Sarah knows the show probably better than anyone else. We should have put her on the mic because she listens to all of the editing happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Kyle's cursing at me, clicking my pen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just did it too. I was making so much fun of you before the show.
We're both the same, though. We're cut from the same cloth, like fidgeters. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, I know.
Riding the speakers. Yep.
Okay, so Kyle's interviewing us.
Yes.
Yes.
What do you want to know? Or what do you think people want to know?
See, the first question is awesome because I get asked
Thanks.
it all the time.
I wrote it. No, I think Ben wrote it. I'm just
I don't think I wrote it.
Well, it's a good question.
I think
it's a good question.
It is a good question. So let's start it off. How did the MasterCast come to be?
Well, one day, this young boy named Ben Wiggins. No, he was a man at the time. This young man, Ben Wiggins, came into my office and he said, I think we should start a podcast. And I said, I do too. But in my brain, I thought, this sounds like a lot of work and will never happen. And then we, talked about some of the logistics of it, but I also didn't listen to podcasts at the time, so I didn't really know what that meant. And then when I finished my PhD one weekend, I decided I was going to clean and paint the baseboards of our house. Mm-hmm. And you cannot watch TV while you're cleaning and painting the baseboards of your house. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could, but you wouldn't be watching it because it's very on the ground work.
Right.
And so for the whole weekend, I listened to the first Serial podcast, which is how everyone gets into podcasts, I think.
I think so.
I mean,
that's how I got into it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Serial, for introducing podcasts to the world in a commercialized way. And so I was painting the baseboards, and it was perfect because I could just put my headphones in, carry my phone around with me, and go all through the house and listen to this crazy show. And I think I finished the first one in a very short period of time, maybe a day, and then listened to the second one. Started listening to that, and then just got into more and more shows after that and really loved it. And so then I really understood what Ben was saying. But Ben was still in school, so we waited until he finished school, and then probably you came back to me, although we were both ready at that point to really get going. And then we went out and got some expertise and met you, Kyle, who the show would not happen without Kyle.
That's right.
And then I remember in my head, we pitched it to Mike Kinney, who was the assistant dean for graduate programs at the time. And he was super excited.
He was.
He listens to podcasts, but on YouTube, which I don't understand. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. It's not just him. But he listened to podcasts. So he was all in on that idea of being a great way to connect with prospective students, former students, and just the community. And then I remember in my head, and I think in Mike's head, a once a month show, a twice a month show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you, Kyle, said, this needs to be weekly or you're going to be irrelevant. And then there was some speak of twice a week. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to be comfortable with the idea of once a week even, just because I didn't know how much work it was going to be, but I thought it was going to be a lot of work. So, but that was the process of how it came about. I think maybe what's most interesting is just why it came about. So you want to talk more about why you pitched this crazy idea?
Sure. The reason for the MasterCast was I was in the MBA program, or the reason for the MasterCast from my perspective was I was in the MBA program and it had felt very much like coming home for me in a lot of ways. College Station is where I'm from. But philosophically, it felt like coming home. Texas A&M was a place where we had all this talk during the orientation about values and principles and so forth. And then as we got into the semester in a very competitive program, I started to realize that people are actually kind of living this out. It's this stuff is not just talk. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is a place whose vision and mission I want to have a larger platform. And I thought, how can I help with that? Because I really tried to take to heart the advice that JFK gave all those years ago. Ask not what your whatever it is can do for you. Ask what you can do. And so I asked myself, what can I do? And I thought a larger media presence might help us. And then it immediately clicked. I have podcasting experience. I've hosted 2 shows already, and we don't have a podcast. We need a podcast. That was it.
That was so smart. I'm just kidding.
So
Cheers.
So what? Oh, go.
No, so to kind of get this timeline right, you asked your first year, and then you sat on it for an entire year until he came back and graduated in 2016.
2
2 years. Okay.
I think I kept coming back and like periodically annoying you about it.
Well, we were touching base, but we also, I remember asking you at one point, like, wait, do you want to do this right now, or do you want to do this when you graduated? And you ultimately said, let's do this when I graduate.
Yeah,
it just wasn't,
have the bandwidth.
No, it wasn't realistic. And so I think that was a good, okay, we do want to do this, but we know we want to do this later.
Right.
And so, yeah, it took 2 years. I think you graduated in May, and we really kicked things off in maybe June or July. Right. So it did take 2 years, but it wasn't because we weren't dragging our feet on it. We just knew it wasn't realistic while Ben was in school.
Sure.
That's right.
I think, too, you talk about home. I was a fish camp namesake, which is one of my proudest accomplishments in my life, in 2013. And the theme song of our camp was that Philip Phillips song. I think that was his name, called Home.
I'm coming home. Oh, sorry,
different song. So the fish camp is for freshmen orientation. And so these are, 18-year-olds coming into this really big place. And I thought the lyrics were perfect for that, but I think that they kind of fit this a little bit too. So some of the lyrics say, hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road, and then settle down, it'll all be clear. The trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone, because I'm going to make this place your home. And I think that's my goal with anyone coming to Texas A&M, certainly with anyone coming into our graduate programs at Mays Business School, which is where I have some influence. I want people to feel at home. And the challenge that we always talk about at Texas A&M, which I'm actually kind of over, I think we need to move past it, is from the outside looking in, you can't understand, and from the inside, you can't explain it.
Yes.
And
we're done with that.
Right. There's so many problems with that when we think about belongingness and feeling part of something,
right,
that I don't think we want to perpetuate. But it's also true that it's really hard to explain to people what it feels like to be here, because it is such a unique place. And so for me, the podcast was about showing that in an hour once a week, especially, we could show insights into that in a way that we couldn't do any other way in any other medium.
Well said.
Well said.
I know. Just kidding.
Thanks. Of course it is.
Shannon Deere, ladies and gentlemen.
So, what funny things happen in the pre-launch recordings?
What happened in pre-launch stays in pre-launch.
Okay, I want to share one story, and I know I told you about it. On my way here, I used to strap my tripods to my backpack, and on my way here, it rained.
On your bike?
On my bike. And it rained really, really hard. And on my way to a giant, towing truck, dually, hit a puddle as I was riding my bike, and I got completely soaked on the way here to recording, and I was just like, awesome.
Did you change? Or did
I flipped him the bird and and then I set up and then went home and took a quick shower and came back. Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't remember ever seeing you soaked.
Yeah.
And you probably didn't tell us because you didn't know us at that time.
And plus I didn't want to stay and be like, this dude smells like dirt. Just soaked. But anyway.
It wasn't raining really hard as this happened.
No.
Okay.
No,
it was only the puddle that was.
So you were fine until the puddle incident.
Yeah, that was really
sounds like a romantic comedy.
What did you think of as you saw it? Did you see it coming? Like when the truck was coming?
100%
you were like,
I did.
No,
I was like, you know what? For some reason, I deserve this. And then I'm
The
serious.
self-hatred, Kyle. I deserve this.
I deserve this.
And then once it happened, I was just like, yeah, all right, Monday morning, here we go.
Right. But it didn't stop you from flipping the dude off.
No, that didn't stop me at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably screamed too. So,
That's so kind
Did you
of
do this? I feel like this is the hand that people
What
do.
yeah.
Like in LA, you see this all the time in traffic.
Oh, for sure.
Ben is raising his hand in disgust.
Yeah.
For those of you that
Watch
are
the
listening.
YouTube video.
Yeah. What is the message of the MasterCast? What should a brand new listener know about the show?
The message of the MasterCast is that business is better when we're not just focusing on the bottom line. And that message is making its way into the business world more wholesale.
I agree. I think, too, for us, what I would say beyond the bottom line in this context is that everyone has a story. Everyone has a story beyond the amount of profit they've made, beyond the amount of wealth that they've accumulated.
True.
And no matter who we put in the chair, Ben can draw out a story that's compelling and interesting, and that we all can learn from whatever guest we have in that week. And I think regardless of who's been here, I've learned something that has changed the way that I act or think. And that's amazing that something an hour a week could be so transformative.
Yes. And one of the phrases that we've used in this room many times is there's gold everywhere. There's gold in everyone. And everyone, we truly believe, has something to teach us. And everyone has something to learn from us as well. And finding that common ground, finding the experience that that person has had that they can share with you in a truly meaningful way, share with me, share with us. That's what this is really all about. It's about getting to that moment and finding the humor in it, or finding the vulnerability in it, or finding the insight in it. Those three things are the things that we always look for.
I would say to a brand new listener that the show is an interview format and it is long form. Mm-hmm. And there are some people we will lose with that format.
Right.
You know, I have a friend who just does not listen to shows like that. She wants produced shows, where someone's doing research and interviewing multiple people and piecing it together, and it's more of a documentary almost in that 30 minutes, whereas ours is a conversation. And intentionally so. Yes. Intentionally, I wouldn't say intentionally long, but intentional in that we tell guests, you do not have to tell the abbreviated version of this story. You can go, and Kyle can cut it down or not, depending on the story, but that you have an opportunity to really hear the depth of the story is important to us.
Right. The other things brand new listeners should know about the show is we do try to keep it family friendly. I think we bleep. We've bleeped probably 3 times. A few times.
And otherwise we haven't had to.
Right.
We're funny.
We try to be.
Y'all have really good banter.
Yeah, I don't know that
it's really grown. So
yeah, someone just texted or someone just emailed this week and said, actually, I've gotten a few this week.
Oh yeah,
you and Ben have really good banter.
Well, we appreciate laughing together
and we
getting
have
at each other a little bit.
Exact perfect balance of loving each other and hating each other.
Yes.
That's true.
No, I'm just kidding. Of being able to rib each other, at least it's fun.
Hard shift. What has surprised you about how the show is produced and consumed?
I've never heard a better produced show from an audio engineering perspective.
I really appreciate that.
I mean,
that's what surprised us the most. I mean, when we met Kyle, we thought, man, I don't know about this
could
guy.
Go either way.
But then it's turned out to be really good. That's been the biggest surprise.
As far as what surprised me about the way the show is consumed, our mission originally was to target prospective students. Mm-hmm. And we've done that for sure. I know students who are thinking about our programs will tell me I'm listening to the show, which is a huge honor, and I love it.
Yeah.
But we have also really connected with former students, and that's been a special surprise that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Now looking back, I think, why wouldn't I have thought that was going to happen? Of course. But that's been a really cool part, is that we've been able to stay connected with former students who are listening to the show, who will check in every once in a while. I didn't know that happened. That's really cool. Or I'm listening. Thanks for the episode last week. I really liked Tyson, or whoever it was. And then also connecting with former students as guests. That's been really fun too. Like Kyle Hitchcock, we recently released his episode, and I had never met him because he graduated before I came into the MBA space, and got to sit down with him and have a really cool conversation, which was a huge honor. I didn't really think about that before we started the show. So that's been a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily have an expectation as to what the audience would be. When we first talked about it, it was prospective students. It was actually part of it was overcoming the outside looking in, inside looking out thing. And so it's been kind of interesting watching kind of who the audience is and who's really engaging with us and so forth. And obviously we appreciate all of the listeners, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for tuning in.
Absolutely. Another surprise in the listenership has been the internal listenership within Maze, or even within the A&M community.
Sure.
Just people will say, oh, I'm listening to the show, and I didn't know that about this person I've worked with for a long time, or this student that I had in my program. That's been really neat. Just the depth that the show does bring to learning about people.
Agree.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
There was one moment when we were at the Entrepreneurship Center, and they have like this mentor, like, I don't know, speed dating. And when we were talking to, I think she was part of like a marketing company here in Bryan. And when Ben was talking to her, she's like, okay, hold on. What do you do? And then Ben's like, oh, well, I host a show for Maze Business School. She's like, the Maze, oh, I knew I heard you from somewhere. And I was like, hey, we're out there.
That is funny. I was at a dinner not too long ago, and someone goes, you have a really good voice. You should host a podcast. Wait, do you host a podcast? She's like, your voice sounds really familiar. It's like, have you ever listened to Maze MasterCast? Oh, you're Shannon Deere. I've had a couple of times where that's happened. Like, oh, wait, you're Shannon Deere from Maze MasterCast?
I think the time that Kyle referenced is the only time I've been like, whatever you call it, whatever you would call that,
spotted,
recognized in public or whatever.
Well, you don't hang around here as often. That's true. That would make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's not what I'm looking for.
TMZ.
But
whatever. We know you do this for the fame.
Right.
Who is the most memorable on-air moment for both of you?
It's still Ahad Azimuddin for me. Moments of joy. And maybe it's because maybe I'm just that easy to manipulate, and it's all there in the soundbite. But the title of the segment, if you want to call it that, like Moments of Joy, that brought it together for me in a way that was just like, I feel like I'm going to keep this story forever.
Yeah.
An old woman comes up to me and she taps me on the shoulder, and she's like, excuse me, like, do you need help? And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get back to London. You know, I was trying to go to Amsterdam. I explained my whole story to her, and she said, you know what, hop in my car. I'll drive you back. You can stay with me, and we can get you a way to go to Amsterdam, figure out a way. And I was like, whoa, okay. She was, old lady. She was about 60, in her mid 60s. And so I was just like, wow, this is some incredibly random hospitality. I mean, I looked very rough. I mean, I was on the move for a while. I hadn't shaved in a really long time. I was just, pretty much a homeless looking, 21-year-old. And she was just so nice to me. And I was like, why would you do all of this? This is so nice of you. And she said, well, I'll be completely honest with you. I just got diagnosed with cancer, and I have about, 9 months left to live. So I might as well do some good while I effing can. And I was like, wow, that is very heavy. And she's like, yeah, so don't murder me, because I'm on my way out anyways. And I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, I mean, I plan to be a doctor anyways. So, I mean, that's the last thing I'd want to do. Right. And so we took about, it ended up being a 2-hour ride back to her home in London. And in that 2 hours, we talked about her life story, her diagnosis, the healthcare system in the UK, all of those sorts of things. And it was just absolutely incredible. And I ended up just, spending the night at her place. And, she bought me food, gave me blankets, all of that. She just took care of me like a grandson, like an adopted grandson. Her name was Joy, which was, also incredibly, ironic. I just call it my moments of joy.
The funniest moment, I think, was Patrick describing how he wanted the superpower, the immortal jellyfish.
Yeah, and he's like,
superpower.
Have you heard about this?
So, right.
No, I haven't.
If you get attacked, then you turn into a baby. I was like, how is that a defense mechanism?
Whatever.
You're getting attacked by a hungry predator and you turn into the most defenseless thing imaginable.
And seriously, if I had a superpower, it would be, I learned about this recently, about the immortal jellyfish. Have you heard about this? These little jellyfish, and when they get scared, they're these little polyp things. Of course, I got this on Wikipedia, so I don't know how
that
official it
bastion
is.
of journalistic integrity.
Exactly. See, Ben knows. No one gets it like we get it. Anyways, the jellyfish, when they get scared, they revert back to the adolescent state and they go back to babies again. And then they start the whole thing over again. So that'd be a cool superpower that you could do that. Like Bailey, I could go scare her,
and she would turn into
a baby again. Like that. So all your and then she'd have to just grow. She'd have to just grow up again.
So the other superpower he wanted was that he turns everyone's cash into loose change.
Exploding pennies.
I've already talked about this with my kids. One is where if you get close to me, all the dollars in your pocket, they just turn into pennies. Like you just your pockets just explode with pennies,
Why?
just because it would be this cool thing where people would know not to have money around you.
We'll have Patrick back on the show soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Because he is so funny. I thought one of the most powerful moments was when you asked Janet Marcantonio what her most valuable failure was. Yeah. And she said having two sons that were disabled. And I knew that you did not. And it was just sort of one of those moments that, whether you knew or not, that stopped you in your tracks or us in our tracks, because it was, I don't know. I don't even know. It was just not something I was expecting her to say as a failure, as a valuable failure. It was just a powerful moment.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an answer you don't get often. I have two severely developmentally disabled twin boys. They are not a failure in the typical sense of the word, but because I did not give birth to them in a way that made them safe and whole health-wise, I feel like that is my failing, or an area in which I fell short. I'm not sure the cosmos sees it that way, but I have learned a lot from that experience, and it has taught me to sacrifice and to find joy in very uncommon, unexpected places as I have watched them grow and cope and learn. They are happy and emotionally sound. Therefore, I am now healed from that.
That is so honest. Thank you for sharing that. I think one of the questions that I asked in that moment was there anything that you could have done differently?
I don't think you asked anything in that moment. You left it. Yeah.
Maybe I asked her about it offline afterwards, and I got the sense that there wasn't anything.
No,
nothing.
Of course not.
It wasn't. It wasn't a result of anything she did.
No, and I think that's what made it stand out to me, is that clearly it wasn't her failure.
Right.
And yet there's something about it that she perceived that way.
Yeah.
And it made me think about ways I could be more vulnerable, or think about the way I feel about things in a different way.
Yeah.
And the truth that it drove home for me was that so much of how our lives take shape is just kind of left to chance at some level. And it's how we process that and how we deal with it. And so bear with me for a second. A lot of people think about something like cancer in terms of that won't happen to me. And I almost, there are times that I almost feel like I would welcome something like that. Not because I want to get cancer, but because I feel like so much of life and meaning and inspiration is just in being able to deal with that in a way that helps other people, feel good about some aspect of it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that that's something that is a situation where I hope I would be able to set a good example for others. And if somebody is going to have to deal with that, then I feel like I can do that well. I'm not saying I want cancer, but I am saying that I go through my life assuming that kind of thing will happen to me at some point. And when it does, I want to be ready to meet it well. I don't know if that makes any sense. Put it.
One of the moments for me was definitely that raw moment with Mark Antonio, and the way she was describing. I actually used it for the promo, and she was talking about how it was basically just making promises, like making certain commitments and spinning, how you can spin that or drop a ball here or something like that. I'm like, I'm constantly trying to balance that. And I will sometimes just replay that clip to kind of remind myself of like, what am I really doing? Like, what do I really need to either cut out, whatever that may be, whether it's like work, certain people that I have in my life, like how can I stay sane? So
we talk about sincerity and reliability.
Yes.
So say what you mean and then do what you say you will do, words and deeds. And then competence, not overclaiming your ability to do something.
And care.
Or yes, sir, or requiring someone else to do something that they're not able to do and then holding them accountable for it. And then care. And you remember, I can tell from your comment that care is the most important of the four. You can let people down by being misinterpreted or sometimes spinning a little or dropping a ball or occasionally allowing people to think that you might have a skill that you don't have all the way, right? But as long as they believe that you totally care about their best interest, both on that assignment in that workplace, as well as respect them as a whole person, have their well-being at heart and best interest, then they will definitely follow you. You will have trust on your team and the team will be strong.
Jim Collins talks about making the stop doing list. And he says the reason that you need a stop doing list is because some of the things that you want to stop doing, you can't stop doing right now. So it's a question of, okay, what can I phase out? Maybe that's even a better way of looking at it, is the phase out list.
I have a colleague, Nancy Simpson, who says, write a what I love doing, am okay with doing, and hate doing list so that you can look at, there are some things on that hate doing list that are just part of getting to do the things that you love.
True.
And you have to acknowledge that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And there are some things on that I hate doing list that you can get rid of. And being conscious of that is important. Looking for opportunities to move those things out of your life is valuable.
Right.
What has been the most impactful lesson you have learned from a guest?
I've had quite a few, but the one that stands out the most is the window mirror maturity from your brother, David Wiggins.
Okay.
I think that probably because it's a powerful lesson, but it's also very clear and concise and a visual. So be a window mirror leader. When something good happens, be a window and let it show through to other people on your team. And when something bad happens, be a mirror and let that reflect only on you and not to the other people that are on your team. And I thought, oh man, if we could all just achieve that, that would be really good. Yeah.
I've had to work very hard to develop as a manager. It's something that we like to call window mirror maturity. And I'm not sure where it originally came from. I think it came from a book, but I don't know offhand which one. Where, particularly when you are in leadership, when things go wrong, you're looking in the mirror, and when things go right, you're looking out the window. And you take the blame and distribute the credit. And that is, again, a little fundamentally different, because when you're an individual contributor, there's a little bit of self-promotion that's involved. It's kind of the way the game is played. But how many stories have you heard about somebody pissed off because their manager took all the credit for all their hard work. Happens all the time.
All the time.
And that is poor management. Because at the end of the day, as a manager, even if you did the work, find a way to push the credit onto someone else, because you don't need it. You're in management. You don't need it. Your reward is the job getting done. Your reward is the company making money. And that, by the way, is one of the reasons why managers are so often compensated with stock.
Mm-hmm.
I think John Krychek said something similar or I said that he had said this in a different context, but that as you move up, it's less about making yourself look good and more about making other people you work with look good. Mm-hmm. And even David talked about how that shift is hard, that you've done all of these things in your career to advance yourself as kind of an individual contributor, that when you get into leadership, you have to start making that turn. And it's almost that what got you here won't get you there concept that is difficult. And I thought he explained that really powerfully.
Yeah.
Good job, Wiggins family.
I don't know if I could pick just one thing. There's so many.
Oh, I know.
There are so many.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer on this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, Ben. Do you have one, Kyle?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because Kyle was prepared.
Bill Peel.
Oh yeah.
He shared a very touching story with about his father. But before that, his lesson to me, I feel like the whole episode was talking to me, and it was everyone, or he was talking about addictions in a certain sense, and he was like, you can also be a success junkie, and I was like, oh, am I that? Like, you get this high, you get this like sense of urgency just because you keep working and getting things done, like marking off that thing on the list just feels so good, so you just keep doing it and work yourself to death.
I also think work is an addiction. And it's probably my favorite term is it's probably the only addiction that's socially acceptable. If you're that addicted, if I was as addicted to a drug as I'm addicted to work, people would rush me off to, Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. Or if I was that addicted to food, they'd rush you off to, The Biggest Loser or something. But when you're addicted to work, society validates it. If you say, I spent this whole weekend preparing to do a podcast, and so I would be really good on this podcast, they'd say, wow, that's great. You're going to do a podcast? You're going to do 3 more speeches next month? You're going to do this. You set a goal of reading 50 books for yourself this year. Fantastic. More. Maybe next year you can do 60. Mm-hmm. And so society validates that. Whereas other addictions, I think society interrupts them and says, whoa, wait a second. That's not a healthy thing to do.
And Hari Sridhar, who was on the show, also said, kind of related to that one of the hardest times in his life was after he made tenure, because it was great for a day or two. And then, or a week or two, whatever it was. It was great for some time period. And then he just kind of, I don't think he used the word depression, but he was kind of blah, because he had worked so hard for this thing that he thought was just going to be the thing that was going to make him happy. And things don't do that. Things like that don't do that. And he was so disappointed and kind of confused and had to readjust to that. And I've heard that happens with people who get tenure specifically, but I think it happens with people when they reach any point that they've been thinking is going to make them happy. Mm-hmm. From Bill's episode 2, I really liked when he talked about the 2 peaks in life, or the 2 mountains in life, that he's had one that was about success, and this next one is about giving back to other people. Mm-hmm. And whatever point you hit that in life, I thought that was really powerful to think about, that there is one where you're kind of climbing for yourself, and then there's one where you're climbing for other people.
Mm. How you define your community, how you find your passion, how your avocation driven by passion can really shape your life and shape that second mountain climb, that first mountain climb being the success climb, and the second mountain being the one that's more tied to your passion and purpose.
What has been the most impactful lesson you have learned from doing the show behind the scenes?
It's been the importance of reps, we could have talked for a year about what this show would be, and we would have taken it in a completely different direction than the way that it has gone, and I don't think that it would be as good. So just, and we talked about this when we first got the show started, we just need to start doing it.
Yep.
We just need to get the reps, and the show itself will show us what it's going to be. And that's exactly what's happened. And it has become something that I really enjoy, and I think people really enjoy listening to. Thank you again to everyone who listens. And yeah, there's a very clear form to it now, and it's not something we could have ever arrived at by planning. So anyone who's thinking about starting a podcast, just start doing it.
And call Kyle.
Yes, call Kyle.
I think that's a really important lesson in life in general. I remember I was doing a Bible study a while back. I think I've said this on the show before. And it said, you don't have to take all the next steps to do something you feel like you should be doing.
Yeah.
You just have to take the next step. You just have to take that one step. And for me, when I finished my PhD, I knew I wanted to do something else in my personal life, not just at work. I mean, I was doing a lot of new things at work too, which were exciting, but I knew I wanted to do something in my personal life. But I didn't know exactly what that was. But I knew the next step of that was buying a personal laptop, because then I could do some of the things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do on my work laptop, like ventures of my own or write a book, start a business, those kinds of things. And I didn't know exactly what it was,
right?
But I just took that one step. And then it took some time to take even a next step, but it was just take that one step. And I think we did that a lot of times with the show, just take that one step and then do that next thing, and then add that question, and then tweak this, and then add the Lencioni questions. And like you said, it's now created this clear flow of the show, a clear format, a clear mission of the show. And if we had waited to figure all of that out, I think there's a old hymn that, if you tarry till you're better, you'll never come. Or I might not have that exact, but if you wait until you're perfect, you're never going to do anything. And so I think for us, that has been a cool part of this, in a large organization, whether that's a corporate environment or a university environment, and maybe even more so in a university environment, we've talked about it being like a big cruise ship where it's hard to pivot and move and turn the ship around. But this project has been more like a speedboat. I mean, we still operate in this big ship, but we've been able to move and pivot and turn and do things differently pretty quickly in a way that's been exciting. I always hear on podcasts, you should never listen to their first 60 episodes. We're now out of our 60th, I think.
Yeah, we sure are.
But I'm really proud of our first episodes. I don't feel that way about our 60 episodes. I think we now have a clearer voice and a clearer mission and all of those things. But our first few episodes, I would still recommend. I'm not saying that as a plug. I'm saying that as I still am proud of the work that we put together. Maybe not all of the 60. There's some that are, more impactful to others. But I think that's oftentimes just based on how you as a listener connect with the guest more than it is about that episode. And so there's many.
Yeah, well, and I think the best part about this particular podcast is that we have so many different people. Like, we're not like aiming for a certain theme on this show. So with that like collection of stories, I feel like there is something for everyone here, as much as pluggy as that sounds. Yeah. Because, it's like you said, I could still recommend any of them.
I was thinking about the story from the very beginning of Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Nwanguma walking around Walmart with her fake pregnant belly because she was doing consumer research and wanted to feel like a pregnant woman, learning how to buy diapers, and just how I thought that's such a cool story that stands out. Or, even some of the littler things like Ross from Frog Slayer being at the zoo with his family and the snake, and Annie talking about her dad making burgers at his, it's just people's stories, right? That just are very memorable. But even from those early shows, I'm still proud of it. But I do think you can learn as you're doing has been an impactful lesson on the show. And just try stuff. We've tried a lot. Even behind the scenes, we've tried a lot.
Yeah. And listen to your listeners. We solicit feedback from the listeners, and top 3 takeaways.
Yeah.
Was feedback from a listener.
Why a guest is important to the world and to Maze was from a listener.
True.
Quotes at the end. We did it one time, and the listeners were like, "Yep, keep that." Yep. So a lot of it, and Lencioni questions are sort of from a guest. So absolutely, we are willing to take feedback and do something with it.
Yes,
which is fun.
This is everyone's show.
Yeah.
Who is your dream guest to have on the show?
Jimbo Fisher.
Ooh, love it.
And then beyond that, Barack Obama.
That'd be pretty insane.
But in terms of someone that we might be able to get sometime soon, Jimbo Fisher.
That'd be a good one. Jimbo, give us a call. Jimbo's people. Yeah. Give us a call. Right. I would want to have Bethany McLean on the show. She is the reporter who broke the Enron story first and then carried it out, wrote the book, The Smartest Guys in the Room, with a co-author, and then was instrumental in the documentary. And I just really like her. I got to meet her at a conference about a year ago. She was there speaking, and we were standing in line getting food together, and we talked for a while. It was really cool. But she has done several other stories. She was really early in breaking the financial crisis of 2008, or the mortgage scandals of 2008. And then she now is looking at some stuff in the oil and gas industry. I think will be really interesting to see what plays out there. But I just really like her. She's neat and smart, and that was a good story. So I would want her on the show.
Indeed.
Awesome. I would want Buzz Williams.
Yeah.
For sure. And
basketball coach, in case people don't know.
Oh, yes. And besides that, I would want big Simon Sinek. I feel like both of you could really talk to that dude. Is there a next phase of the show? Something your team is trying new this year?
I think in terms of what we're doing content-wise, it'll continue to be a fade. The adjustments that you make, I think, as time goes on, get smaller and smaller for the most part, unless you discover that there's some sort of major pivot that you have to make. But I think the incremental changes will continue. We'll continue to find things that, we added 2 questions pretty recently to the rapid fire that we got from Tim Ferriss, I think. And that's a relatively recent addition, but it just felt like those 2 questions fit really well into what we do with rapid fire at the end.
We dropped a rapid fire question and replaced it.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know that I have much to add to this as far as next phase. I look forward to whatever it is. I think we will probably be surprised by whatever it is.
I'm sure we will be.
Maybe a studio. That would maybe be a cool next phase. But I also don't want to share it with anyone else, so that would be tricky. I've actually told people, they're like, "Do you want a studio?" And I've said, "Well, do we have to schedule the space?"
Right.
Because I don't want to fight for the space. I don't want to. I want to be able to schedule a guest tomorrow if a guest is around and not displace someone else. So, but a studio could be a cool next phase, and just we're getting more guests asking to be on the show, and I think that's a cool phase to be in. So if you know people that you think would be great as guests, our listeners, if you know people that would be great as guests, we would love to hear that and get that insight from you. So that's been fun.
Well, I think that will close our special show for the day. I appreciate you both. I love you both, and
we love you.
I think we had some fun.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah,
thanks, Kyle.
Love you all.
It's your boy, fun. Kyle.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for watching. We appreciate your support. Drop us a like below, and feel free to leave a comment if you wish. We appreciate positivity and constructive feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes and bonus content. You can also take us on the road using your favorite podcast listening app. We have those linked below. If you'd like to know more about Mays Business School or our guests, visit mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Talk with you soon.